Welcome to the channel. I'm Alan McPhee, and this is The Metaphysician. I want to continue the topic I started before on immortality, and I discuss the real meaning, the traditional real meaning of immortality, which is a spiritual notion. But I ended that conversation with the idea of biological immortality, which is the most popular version of that meaning today. Biological immortality. What does this mean? We know from previous discussion that since biological units, humans have birth, by definition, you cannot be immortal. You're out of the game. So what do we mean by this word biological immortality? We can still use it, but you have to understand the meaning, all right? I would say the best definition, all right, is to describe biological immortality as the ability that biological entities have to not die. The ability that biological entities have to not die. So if you avoid death, biological death, all right, then we could say that you're biologically immortal. There's a timeline, all right, when we look at immortality. There's what happened in the past, there's what happened in the future, and there's the present. If regular immortality, spiritual immortality, you're always there in the past, you're always going to be in the future, and you are now. Biological immortality denies us the always in the past because you have a birth. We only have the future. And this is what we're doing. Biological immortality only like half of the timeline. It says that if you can avoid biological death, then we will treat you as immortal. I like that. And that's a clear definition. However, what does it mean to not die? What does it mean to not die? You had birth and now you're saying you're not going to die? Again, this notion has to be limited. We have to carve it out. And I have to take a philosophical position on this one. I'm not trying to give what everyone else is saying. I am a philosopher. I'm a living philosopher. Metaphysics is my hobby. It's what I do in the world. I'm a living philosopher and I have a position on this, right? My position on this notion here, okay, is that we use the common sense notion of mortality or death. We need to use that when we're talking about life experiences and we observe people dying all the time. They die of old age, they die of disease, car accidents, death, 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 death. And so when we're using this notion of mortality, we're looking at experience that everywhere, every day. So as a philosopher, when we say biological immortality, the meaning must be somehow we're eliminating some of that death that's in front of us. It's a very simple notion, but that's my position. Otherwise, this word biological immortality has no real meaning. And when you do that, you're going to confuse it with the spiritual meaning, which is not viable. That's a different kind of notion. You can't use that, but that's what you're going to do. So then for me, biological immortality occurs. Anyone can be called biologically immortal if they avoid death, and so on, these major ways that we are accustomed to. So let me delineate a few of these things, okay? I see 6 different ways to have biological immortality, and I want to talk about them in depth as we progress, right? So first, let me articulate. One of the most common ways that we understand of dying is eating or not eating. If you don't eat, you die. That's why we say you're immortal. Mortals must eat. Therefore, one sense of biological immortality is that someone can live without eating. All right. There may be other ways you die. There's one way to say you're biologically immortal when you don't eat food or you don't drink any water. If you don't eat and drink, that is one definition of being biologically immortal. Maybe you still get hit by a car and die, but you still have achieved immortality. Since we have biological immortality is a very limited notion, we have to accept that. We cannot Remember, in spirituality, there is still death in spiritual immortality. The body dies. You get killed by the car, you get killed from not eating. All right. They're talking about something, a mystical force beyond the physical. See? That is always there, even in spiritual immortality. So, biological immortality, being that we are here in the physical world, okay, we want to look at the notion of immortality in a very restricted way. Number one, those who can live without food or water. They are biologically immortal. They've achieved it in some fashion. Another way, which I'll have to discuss a little further, is the idea that you come disease free. By disease, I mean organic diseases, viruses, bacteria, superbugs, all those little things that live in our body that can kill us at any time. Every time we get the cold and the flu, if you can achieve being disease free, I believe at that stage, when you can be disease free, you would be immortal. That'd be another level of biological immortality because diseases can kill you. So if you can get rid of them or control them indefinitely, you will be biologically immortal. Of course, we will need scientific sense to take measurements of your blood to determine if you are disease free. That's going to be the second way. The third way is genetics. No matter how healthy you are, you're very healthy, don't get sick during the seasons. We know that based on your family background, based on your genes that you come to the world, suddenly some disease may appear and boom, you know, you have a stroke, you have anemia, cancer appear out of nowhere because you are genetically predisposed for those problems. So another way to achieve biological immortality is to be genetically well designed. Of course, I'm probably pushing the envelope very far, but you cannot deny this to be true, even among the sciences. If you can achieve well designed genetics, you will be an immortal, one form of immortality. Now, that is, and understand the difference. Let's say, for example, you become genetically well designed, so you're not going to die of any genetic problems. That is a form of biological immortality, the way I'm defining it as a philosopher. But you may not have achieved food immortality, dietary immortality. That means, although you're well designed genetically, you stop eating, you're still going to die. Notice I'm giving very limited definitions of biological immortality, but they make sense. And the word is used properly in a way that can be understood and measurable, right? I will get into detail and as we go along with this topic. In each one, I'm going to focus on this and go in depth. Another one that's very popular now is the idea of being ageless. If a person, when we observe, a lot of people, we all, I say a lot of people, we all are born, we live, we get old, and we die. That's the process we go through. And eventually we die of old age. Sometimes we don't die of old age. You could die of starvation. You could die of disease problem. You could have genetic problems, okay? But you can also die of age. You see? Do you see the different ways you can die? If you're able to stop the aging issue, you no longer age, you become ageless. That would be a clear sense of biological immortality. But please understand, when you are ageless, that's only one limited form of being biologically immortal. Because you may be biologically immortal because you don't age, but if you haven't achieved dietary immortality, so you don't eat, you die. You see? So I have these various clear senses of biological immortality, and different people may have different ones. You know, maybe a super person can have all of them, but let's just look at the ones that are really clear, definitive, and you should be able to call that person biologically immortal if they achieve any one of these areas. Then there's one that really fascinates me, which I like, and I'm going to get into that one. I'm going to call it scientifically verified immortality. Scientists now can do tests on your blood, your saliva, and do tests on your genetic makeup, on your telomeres, and see whether or not you are kind of immortal, basically. They can see the rate at which you're aging. They can see, they have various factors to see the state of your organs. And there must be, if you put all those numbers together, a state in which the scientist can see that, hey, you are biologically immortal through all their data. And this one I want to get into a lot in depth. And I'm going to take some tests myself because I'm going to do the whole talk here. I'm going to see how immortal I am from the scientific perspective, right? This is a good one. There's a lot of biohackers today. Most of the biohackers, they're not scientific, but they're using the scientific knowledge to determine whether or not their intuitive, their own personal decision of taking this vitamin and fasting leads them to a longer life, which the science is going to verify for them. Right. So we're going to look at that one. One more. This is when we say immortality, and it's if you are indestructible. And this is very, very important. This is the most difficult one to convey to you. When we say spiritual immortality, and people are not clear the distinction between spiritual immortality and biological immortality, they confuse them. Spiritual immortality has a sense that you're always there, but it's the spirit, the mind, or the soul that's always there. You see? They forget that in real spiritual immortality, the body dies. The body can be destroyed, can be shot, can be killed. It can go in many ways. People forget that, all right? When we get into biological immortality, we must split it up and make sure we understand the distinction. So when we say biological immortality, one way we can confirm your body is immortal, it means you're indestructible. But we cannot say you're indestructible in an extreme way because it does not make sense because you took birth. If you take birth, you can die. There's no doubt about that. So indestructibility must be a limited form. And what I mean by that, I like the idea of indestructibility in the sense that perhaps you get hit by a car, you enter a fire, you get shot, and your body's able to super heal itself in real way. Now, this one is going to take us more into Hollywood and a little bit of fantasy to get to it. But I do believe there's something there if you accept the limitation. That is, we're not going to have it the case that you can die in all circumstances because that's not going to work because you are finite. We're going to say in the normal human experience, most of us, we get shot in the head, we die. A biological immortal person who has indestructibility may get shot in the head, the body, and they get up and they continue because their healing system, okay, their nervous system is so sophisticated, it allows them to continue. In that sense, this logical constructed sense, I can accept indestructibility. But not when you say immortal, the body's never. No, it has to be within something we can understand. So either we remove the indestructibility component completely, or we put it on the table with some limitation, with some certain of limitation that we have to discuss what those limitations ought to be. But I do like the idea. Okay, I just don't like the confusion of this notion because indestructibility is very much confused with spiritual immortality, which is completely different. Spiritual immortality accepts destruction of the body. Biological immortality, I'm going to say, must accept destruction, but it has to be, it takes a lot of work to destroy that particular person. All right, it would take a lot of finesse to kill them. Okay, and so therefore that one I'm going to discuss much later when I have more tools to discuss because Hollywood has taken that, run away with that one. They make it if you're immortal, you're indestructible, but if you're born, no, you can die. So in any case, this is my position. Biological immortality is a limited version, a modified version of immortality, which speaks to the notion of death, the last part of it. And in it, we say that we don't die in the normal way that regular people would die. And people will notice it. If you don't eat, people will notice it. You don't have any disease, it will be clear on your body, the clarity, your health. It will be clear that you're different. All right. And with that, you may also have certain amount of longevity. Genetic problems are much more intense than we understand. All right. If you had no genetic problem, you would look completely different. You'd be well designed. What they call it, a god or a goddess. You have been Adonis. Yeah, you would. It would be different. And agelessness is being pursued. We have billions of dollars being pursuing this particular idea of being ageless. And I'm going to follow that. I'm going to see how that works. And the scientific version, there are millions of dollars being poured in scientific research to identify when things can be immortal. There are different animals that scientists have been studying. We're going to get into all of that as this particular focus continues. And I said, all of them we discussed, the most difficult one to sell to you, or even sell to myself, when I look deep into the notion of being indestructible, a limited form of indestruction. However, although it's limited in the grand scale, for ordinary people, for even me looking at you, you get shot in the head, you get up. Oh no, you're an immortal. You're biologically immortal, but you're an immortal. I'm going to say. There was once a woman who fell from a plane. The plane crashed. She fell out of the plane before it crashed. 20,000, 30,000 feet. She got up from the wreck and walked away to live to talk about it. Yes. That woman was a biological immortal. She was indestructible. Imagine falling 40,000 feet to something like that. I'll find that story and make it part of this presentation here. Imagine falling that far down and you get up and you walk away. No, that's not possible. That's an example. That's an instant of a biologically immortal person. I don't know what happened, but she survived. I would treat her as an example of a biologically immortal person. She has indestructibility, at least when falling from planes, right? So I'm going to end here, and I'm going to say, please think about this. If you have any comments, you disagree, or you agree, or you have something else you want to add to my list. Mostly if you have something else you want to add to my list, or you have any questions about the ones I chose here. All these items I've spoken about, I am going to go in depth in them, and I am going to show research on the internet where people have spoken about to actually flush out these ideas, all right? I am presenting a philosophical position now. This is my position, all right? So I want you to come along on this journey. For now, I'm going to say, have a great day.